In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be breaking down the Bears' poor performance in Houston. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season's not going on right now, but it will be starting up next month. So head on over to icehogs.com, tell them Swerski Sports sent you, and get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Alex, oof, where do we even begin with yesterday?
You know what we did yesterday, Sean? We watched the Bears. We watched the Bears. This is what they do.
We collectively were Charlie Brown having the football yanked away from us yet again.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. Lucy wasn't getting stopped by any of our offensive linemen. That's for sure.
It's infuriating that no matter what, we all said as a collective fandom, we were like, this offensive line stinks. And here we are with this offensive line. And the worst part is when you ask any of them what happened, they're just like, we're just doing the plays that were called. So who is everybody blaming here? I mean, I guess it starts with Ryan Poles. He put this line together.
Yep.
We had our offensive line coach, who was like one of the only coaches that stuck around from the last offensive coaching staff, and they promoted him. And what's he doing? These players, I watched every single one of them olay somebody and let them just run straight by.
I don't know what Nate Davis was doing on some of those plays.
I mean, Darnell Wright at the end of the game, just let a guy go around.
Uncontested.
How in the world there's some debate over how many dropbacks total there were, but the Bears had 37 pressures on 42 dropbacks or something.
It was an insane number. I mean, you didn't need a chart to tell you that.
Yeah, it was every dropback. Caleb Williams is just under pressure, and sometimes it's just absolute mayhem and he is running for his life. Other times it's the pocket collapsing. And then you've got Braxton Jones, who, I get it. He's much more athletic than he is a powerful, strong guy. So he always lets guys go around and has a big loop. But what happens is when Coleman Shelton has no strength either and just gets driven back and tries to stay in front of a guy, if the pocket is collapsing around you and into you, where are you supposed to go as a quarterback? You can't step around, you can't step up. Where are you supposed to go? It's a bad combination.
Sean, have you seen the PFF pass blocking grades?
No, I was waiting for them to come out. How bad are they?
Okay, you want me to read them for you?
Can I try to rank them?
Sure.
Man.
So there's five guys that are listed. Who would you say is the first?
I would say highest is probably Darnell Wright.
No.
He was bad, but some reason they usually give him high ratings.
No.
They were all bad. All right, Braxton Jones?
Correct.
Okay. Two, Tevin Jenkins,
Close, but no.
Coleman Shelton.
Nope.
Okay, Nate
Yeah.
Davis.
Nate Davis, number 2.
Okay, then Tevin Jenkins,
You got it?
Coleman Shelton,
Mm-hmm.
Braxton or Darnell Wright.
Correct. Those are the 5 that are listed here.
How bad was Braxton Jones?
I'll let you guess Braxton Jones. What do you think it was if you had to put a number out there?
And this is just the passing grade.
Pass blocking. Yes.
I'm gonna guess 56.
Little higher.
60,
Little higher.
63,
Little higher.
65,
Little higher.
67,
Little higher.
70,
Little lower.
69.
69.3.
Huh, that's actually not a bad number.
It's not, but that's the highest. Nate Davis was 61.5. Tevin Jenkins was 59.8. Coleman Shelton was 56.7. Darnell Wright was 39.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like you said, 69 isn't a horrible number, but that's the best. That's the highest number. That's not great.
Yeah. I,
Okay, here's something I want to really emphasize. I really got to emphasize this, especially with the way football's been shaping up the past few weeks as a whole. We've talked all day with our friends, our colleagues, people on Twitter, yada yada, about protecting Caleb Williams because that's the most important thing, right? But what to me is so damning, you could not run the ball to save your life.
no, it is the old saying is the two best friends that you can give a rookie quarterback are a good running game and a safety net tight end. And they could not run. I believe off the top of my head that DeAndre Swift had 1.8 yards per carry.
That high
I believe it was 1.8.
seems high. Because, dude, it seemed like when they were trying to go on first down, how many times did they lose yards?
Most of the time.
Whether it was trying to go to the outside, trying to do some sort of sweep, or you were trying to run some screen play. I mean, because that bad offensive line, you couldn't protect Caleb to throw downfield, you couldn't execute a screenplay, and you couldn't run block. You couldn't do anything sufficient. So we got a lot of problems with Shane Waldron. We'll get into that, but there's when your line can't execute anything, if your quarterback can't pass, if you can't run the ball, if you can't do a screen, man.
I take that back. DeAndre Swift was 1.3.
I was going to say that sounded high.
1.3. He had 14 attempts for 18 yards, including one where it was a run for 7 yards.
Ugh, man.
So you take that one run away, and he had 13 carries for 11 yards.
Man.
You can't. And the other running backs, Travis Homer had 1 carry for 6 yards. Herbert had 2 for 3 yards. And
Which
Caleb
was a
Williams,
touchdown.
Yeah, one of them was a touchdown and a 2-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams had 44 yards rushing. Your rushing leader can't have 44 yards.
And it shouldn't be your rookie quarterback.
Yeah. It can't. There were things that like it's so hard to evaluate what Caleb needs to do, not just for us as fans or the media, but for the coaching staff and Caleb himself. Is how do you evaluate him? How do you go through the film with him, tell him what he's doing when he's running for his life and you can't run the ball and your play calling just keeps running the ball?
I got sick to my stomach when I saw that image of Caleb Williams on the bench, because that is the exact same expression Justin Fields had a few years ago. Everyone knows exactly what image I'm talking. I think somebody on Twitter even put the two side by side. And not only that, but you saw how frustrated DJ Moore was getting.
Yeah.
You saw it.
Yep. Is what the hell is going on? We have a brand new offensive coordinator. It's like everybody forgets how to coach football once they walk into Hallis Hall. What the hell is going on? The play calling is atrocious, and it is so conservative and atrocious. And what's worse than the play calling is the players that they're putting in these positions. You have Cole Kmet, you have Rome Odunze, you have DJ Moore. Why are you right off the bat going to your DeAndre Carter as the funneling your offense through him when he is your return man that's only in because you had an injury? Why are you funneling the offense through him?
And do you remember it was either the first or second pass to DJ Moore? I can't remember. You saw DJ Moore make the catch and he shifted his way for like, what was it, 8-9 extra yards? You see what a weapon you have in DJ Moore. You saw what Cole Kmet can do after last year, and Gerald Everett is getting more targets than him early on.
It's embarrassing.
And one thing I also wanted to bring up too is when you need a yard and you're lining up in the shotgun. I know Caleb, a lot of shotgun in college. I get it, but you had to pull teeth to barely get a first down. After you failed on 3rd and 1, you went for it on 4th and inches, and Khalil Herbert, by the skin of his teeth, just got it. But here we are again. Pulling teeth just to get a yard or two. This is what we went through with Luke Getsy. This is what we went through with Matt Nagy. It never ends.
It is the same story over and over and over and over and over. Why? And I'm going to tell you is I think we all, the growth of the beard made us all forget how much we wanted to fire Matt Nagy. I'm sorry, Matt Eberflus is Freudian slip.
They're all coming together. It's one just big giant grimace. Like it's like the Blob.
We all wanted to fire Flus, and at the end of the season, we're like, okay, they're winning a couple games, and he grew a beard, and he came up with some dumb nicknames, and we forgot how much we wanted to fire him. And I didn't want to say it publicly because I was like, I don't want to put this into the universe. But I'm like, I wonder how many games into this season before we're all like, fire Flus.
I was saying it last offseason, but yeah.
All right. There are 4 head coaches in this division. Would you make Matt Eberflus number 1?
God, no. God.
How about number 2?
No.
Number 3?
No.
Is he anywhere? Is he closer? Is he closer? I don't even. Is he anywhere near number 3?
No. Did you see what Brian Flores is doing with Sam Darnold? Do you see what Campbell has in Detroit? Do you see what frickin' Matt LaFleur is doing with Malik Willis? Just a masterclass of play calling and scheming. Oh, we don't have a quarterback? No problem. Matt LaFleur has coached circles around Matt Eberflus. Circles. And last night,
Matt LaFleur might be the best coach in football.
He's top 3. I'd say he's top 3. I'd still put Andy Reid as number 1, but
fair enough.
He could be 2 or 3.
But the thing is,
absolutely be up there.
Andy Reid is fantastic, but he also has Pat Mahomes and Jason Kelsey, which makes life a whole lot easier. is Matt LaFleur. I'm going to go out there and say that I think if Jordan Love played for a team with a bad head coach, he would be terrible.
I don't think he'd be as good.
Matt LaFleur made Malik Willis, who is arguably the worst quarterback in the NFL, and went and won a game with him.
Yeah. He said, all right, we'll pound the rock, we'll block, we'll get it done. We'll get it done.
And Kevin O'Connell is just absolutely killing it with Sam Darnold. And you have Nietzsche, who's, one of the favorites from the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. And then you've got Flus. He doesn't belong there. You are the Chicago Bears. Why can't you get a real head coach? A real one, a great one.
And you know what? I give a lot of credit to Matt Eberflus as a defensive coordinator. I will give him his flowers for that. He is a defensive coordinator, not a head coach. He hasn't shown me he's a head coach yet. And if you ask me, is Matt Eberflus a good leader of men with a good culture? Yeah, I think so. But there's no way you could tell me that he's anywhere in the same galaxy as Andy Reid or Matt LaFleur or Dan Campbell or Mike Tomlin or Jim Harbaugh. Nowhere near.
Jim Harbaugh made it a focus to win in the trenches. And they don't have any weapons on that team. And he's like, we'll take a scrap running back and bottom of the heap wide receivers, and we're going to win because we've got a hell of an offensive line. When people criticize Jim Harbaugh for not getting weapons in the draft, he said, I did get weapons. Offensive linemen are weapons.
Look what's working. Look what's working. And you know what? I'm not going to criticize Ryan Poles for what he did in the draft this year. I'm not. But you had plenty of other opportunities to get linemen, to get better linemen. You could have signed guys. You could have traded for guys. Yes, you traded for Bates and he's hurt. I get that. But you kind of just like, we'll do this. Okay. It's not that he hasn't done nothing, but it's not nearly enough. How have you not gotten the center right in all these years? 3 years. You're going to tell me you're going to tell me you're going to win in the trenches in your introductory press conference, and this is still a big issue. I don't get it. You've addressed a number of areas very, very well, but the former offensive lineman, the guy who said we were going to beat you in the trenches in your introductory press conference, I truly don't get it. And I want to go back to Flus for a sec, because it's one thing to be the CEO of a team. You can be the CEO of a team. Why are you challenging two plays that are so obvious? What's going on? Who's telling him to do this? Who's on your staff telling you to do this?
I get that there's a guy in the booth watching, telling you when to do it, but
that's your staff member.
But yeah, you hired that dude, and he's terrible at his job.
I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. I mean, in the first half, that was a dumb challenge. I'll somewhat let it slide because who the fuck knows what a catch is. But the Kyler Gordon play, could that not have been more obvious that hit the ground? And that's the second half in a close game where a timeout or a challenge could be crucial. What are we doing?
Like, I get, we all desperately wanted that to be Kyler Gordon catching the ball.
But it wasn't.
But if it's not, we can't wish it to happen. Like a challenge isn't a wish. It's having you go and look at evidence. It should be more clear.
It's the power of friendship. That's what wills it. It's the power of friendship and the hits principle. Um, but yeah, man, I just again, in my dream world, the Bears get a real head coach and Matt Eberflus just stays as the defensive coordinator because I think he knows a defense. He's a really, really good at that. Because I do want to talk about the defense, but there's nothing to me that says head coach. Sure, he's gotten a little better in press conferences and speaking. Okay. Okay. But that only goes so far.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And you can look at this as a week 2 overreaction, but this is year 3 of this head coaching regime.
The reason we're okay with it being an overreaction is what is Matt Eberflus's record overall as a head coach in the NFL?
Well, you've won 11 games in 2.01 seasons, and I'll give them 2022. I'll give them that. But boy, when you lost those 3 historic games last year, and when you saw 2 coaching staff members get fired due to non-football related things, there were some red flags there. And it's nothing against the man. It's nothing against his ability to put together a defense. I think a lot of teams would like to have him as a defensive coordinator, but there's not one team in the NFL that would call him up to be a head coach. And you know what? This is probably going to be the guy the rest of the year. And if he wants to win me over, let's see it. Yes, you came back and won last week. The special teams got a blocked punt. Will Levis was bad. And last year, you beat Tyler Heineke. You beat Bryce Young, who's getting benched. You beat a 3-win Cardinal team. Props to you for playing well against the Lions. Legitimately well done. But you didn't look like an NFL team against a lot of good players. And yeah, it was a close game technically. We'll get more into that, but there's a lot that needs to get fixed here. Truly. And I feel like a meathead screaming right now in week 2, but
I'm going to ask you this. So people are like, oh, well, at least the Bears have a get right game playing the Colts this week because the Colts lost to Malik Willis. How did they lose? Josh Jacobs had like 100, almost 160 yards rushing. So they're susceptible to the run. The Bears can't run. The Bears cannot run the football. So how on earth are they planning to win that game if they can't run the ball? Like, I just, are they magically, this is fixing the ails of that offensive line and figuring out a running game is not an overnight thing. It's not.
no, it's
We
tough.
saw Velus Jones royally messed up. What did they do to send a message?
Well, they took him away from that role, and then he was inactive this week.
Okay. Why is Coleman Shelton going to still start next week? Why isn't Doug Kramer going to be in there?
Can Doug Kramer be any worse? I'm scared to ask that question because I guess you could be, but
no. Coleman Shelton might be the worst center in the NFL, starting center. So why wouldn't you put Doug Kramer in?
I'd like to see him get a chance. I would rather try to see what he can do because I don't have any confidence right now you're going to get anything good from that right now. I really, really don't.
What I would do, I know this is a big shakeup and I don't care, is Coleman Shelton gets benched. Doug Kramer goes in. Tevin Jenkins gets moved back to the right side. Nate Davis gets benched. And you put Pryor in at left guard. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and if Pryor gets in there, just hope that Rafael Furcal doesn't run into him.
I just I think you have to have a major shakeup because
After that, yes.
the
Yes.
offensive line has been so bad. And you know what? If I'm Ryan Poles, I go and have mirrors installed in Hallis Hall so everybody can take a good look in one because you know what infuriated me the most about the whole situation with yesterday's game?
What?
It wasn't even the game per se, is in the press conference, somebody asked uh Flus if the pass blocking was good enough to be able to judge um Caleb Williams. And he said, yes. I wanted him fired on the spot. I I would be a terrible GM because I would have been enraged and I would have flew off the handle in the middle of the press conference and fought Matt Eberflus over that comment. I would have I would have flipped tables. I wouldn't have even been able to speak English. I'd have been so mad. Like
The Tasmanian devil.
just go tearing through there, spinning around. And then I would hit loose so hard that 6 seconds later, it would be a long pause, and then his beard hair would just fall off onto the ground
Yeah.
in the same shape of the beard. Just boop.
Oh, what a sight that would be to see.
Hey, like the older I get, the more I stop blaming John Paxson for punching what's his name? Who was the head coach that he punched?
John Paxson?
Yeah. When he was the Bulls GM. Who was the head coach that he punched?
Uh,
God, I'm having such an old man moment.
he punched a coach.
Yeah. Vinny Del Negro.
Why do I not remember that?
It was reported on NBA Today that John Paxson punched or tried to punch Del Negro twice.
Why do I not remember that? Because that had to be either 2009 or 2010, right?
2010.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why?
that the more I get older, I understand it. You know what? Sometimes they just need to get punched. Like that, Matt Eberflus for that comment should have got punched, and Shane Waldron needs to just he needs to grow a pair and just be like, all right, listen, we stunk. I've got to be better. I've got to make better calls. This team, and he called Shane Waldron a great teacher. The the players that clearly have no idea what the hell's going on. You have
Yeah, they need to get on the same page here.
wide receivers are running wrong routes or not on the same page as the quarterback. Guys are just olaying people. It's not even that they're getting bowled over. They are, but they're just sometimes just letting the guy go. And what the hell is going on? I I mean, it just goes back to when uh Olin Kreutz is every year he's like, up, it's the season where we say we need weapons, we need weapons. You can get an offensive lineman late in the draft, and then when you get the wide or the lineman late in the draft, then he stinks, and you're like, well, why is our offensive line stink? That's where we are.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much figuring out to do, and so many things need to be different. And I mean, look, let's look at the facts here. This wasn't one bad game from the offensive line. It was bad last week, too.
Yeah.
It was very shaky in camp.
at least last week you're like, oh, it's the interior offensive line. The tackles played fine. This week it was the whole offensive line was terrible.
Yeah, it was top to bottom. And the Texans are a really good team, but they're not the D line you fear the most in the NFL. You would argue that you have more weapons on the Titans in the interior than the Texans do,
Yeah,
despite
but
the Titans being a worse team.
yeah, but that the outside edge rushers of of Texans are much better. Like if you would have told me
But that
that,
was supposed to be strength on strength.
yeah, but if you told me that Daniil Hunter and what's his name that they drafted last year as defensive rookie of the year, if you would have told me the two of them had a good game, but the Bears were able to maintain the pocket in the center of the line because
Yes.
you don't strike fear to me in the center of that line. I'm not saying they're bad players, but if you tell me, oh yeah, hey, they were able to hold their own, I've been okay. That makes sense. Hopefully, Caleb Williams got to step up in the pocket or at least run a little bit and pick up yards or had open passing lanes. But no, it was they just got manhandled.
Right. Right. It was bad everywhere. Um, can we talk about Caleb Williams now?
Yeah,
So it's one of the situations where there were still some really rough moments,
yeah,
but I still think we did see some significantly better moments as well than week one. I thought the first half, I was pretty cool with what we saw from him. He looked on that first drive quite comfortable. The feet were moving better,
yeah.
moving the ball downfield. They eventually got into the end zone.
And
It-
last year we talked about the quarterback being a part of the problem with the number of sacks that were taken uh, um, because of how long he was taking to throw the ball. Caleb Williams is like one of the top six in time of to throw the ball. He's getting it out quick. He's making that read, he's making the throw. So it's not really him. It is that offensive line. He's doing what he's supposed to do most of the time. My concerns are, and he's not hitting the deep ball, but which that's been his calling card. So I'm not worried about it. It's just you got to give him like a second to be able to step back, read, plant his feet, and throw it. He can't be throwing flat footed or just with his arm or falling backwards and make an accurate throw. Just can't happen.
And I still think it's pretty clear that he's still working on being on the same page with some of his guys. Like the connection with Roma Dunze just isn't quite there yet.
No, it is not.
And that is a work in progress. That's just one of those things that might take a little time. Um, where you get really sick with is when you get sacked 7 times and you see how it all unfolded, that you don't want to see Caleb Williams get his confidence a bit damaged. And, Caleb Williams is a confident guy, and I'm not saying that this one bad game is going to completely derail him, but I really do think that you got to help out your young quarterback in every way you can. And unfortunately, that didn't happen last night. Now, again, you saw Caleb Williams try to do a lot on that second interception, throwing into triple coverage, just kind of heaving it out there. And you will see that from rookie quarterbacks. Like you said, the deep ball just really wasn't there. The timing wasn't right. The accuracy wasn't right. I mean, really, if you were to ask me what the toughest moment for Caleb Williams is, and I want to get your opinion on this, it wasn't necessarily the interceptions for me. It was the deep ball to Carter, where Carter was gone and he just missed him. That
Yeah.
to me was the roughest part of Caleb Williams' night, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, and it's hard because I feel bad because it's hard with a rookie quarterback. It's a tough game, and you don't give him a chance. He's getting beat like a rented mule, and he's doing, like, oh, play within the system, play with you let your guys make the plays. He's doing that. It's not happening. He's handing off. His guys getting tackled during the handoff. Oh, he's dumping it to an outlet, loss of 3. Like, how is this happening? Just nothing is working. Nothing is working.
It's frustrating.
It's just the same old. We've been saying this since 1988. Is your way this last year? You're like, okay, in a rebuild. You're now on the clock. We all said Ryan Poles isn't officially on the clock. Puts his quarterback in place. He put his quarterback into place. The clock is starting for Ryan Poles, and the clock is starting on how much time you have before you have to pay Caleb Williams or move. I mean, let's be real. He could be a bust. I don't think so, but he could be a bust. And if it's either pay him or, time to get another quarterback, like that clock has started.
Right. And listen, you need to protect him. You need a line in front of him. Everybody knows that. But even with that said, I really don't think Caleb Williams, in the eyes of many, regardless of how relevant it is or not, is going to get quite the same rope as Justin Fields got. Because I feel like you can look at Justin Fields' situation and say, this is a team doing a complete rebuild around him. 2022, by the end of the season, he had Equanimous St. Brown and Dante Pettis as his number 1 receivers. And of course, no offensive line. That goes without saying. But, Caleb Williams, they need to reconstruct this offensive line. They need to make it better. They need to scheme better. So much better has to happen around him. But people are going to look and say, look, you got DJ Moore, you got Rome Odunze, you got Keenan Allen, you got Cole Kmet. So,
here's I don't want to bring up Justin Fields too much, but I want to say this is we all like Justin Fields as a person. The other players around him liked Justin Fields.
yes.
Justin Fields arguably might be the most athletic guy in the NFL.
Yeah.
He could make
sure.
these dynamic plays with his legs. He had a big, strong arm. And Ryan Poles decided you can't win with him because he's not a pocket passer. And he goes to Pittsburgh, and he's 2-0 right now. Albeit the offense looked atrocious, but they were able to score some points, enough points to win. But I'm going to tell you here what made me realize that Justin Fields wasn't going to be the long-term answer. And I saw it on a chart, from yesterday's game with Pittsburgh that just hammered it home. And, it was something I knew, but it just full reminder with a new scheme, a new team is Justin Fields cannot use the middle of the field to complete passes. And there's only so much you can do just throwing to the outside.
Right. Because Justin Fields' deep balls were pretty good.
He's got a really good arm. It's just he's never going to be that guy that makes the pass into the middle of the field. I don't know if it's the yips or if he just doesn't trust himself or
Anticipatory throws in the middle of the field. I think that was always kind of a knock on him, but
yeah. So, and it's every one of his completions on the boundaries. And I'm like, you're just not going to win like that. Sure, it's Pittsburgh and they're going to be at least 500, but he's got a ceiling. So you traded him away and you went with Caleb Williams, and he has I think he has a higher ceiling than Justin Fields, but it's again, it's ceiling is something you don't always achieve. In fact, most people don't achieve their ceiling.
No, it's hard to in the NFL. It's hard to. And I want Caleb Williams to do it so bad, but I want to make sure that he's got the right coaching, the right scheme, and everything around him to do so.
And getting to watch CJ Stroud play, he's really good.
Yes,
He
he is.
has a command. I mean, that offense is geared around him. You have a really good offensive coordinator, but there was a play where the Bears just had them shut down, and all they had to do was stop him on like a 3rd and long, and they got great pressure on him, rolling him out. He runs and runs, and before he gets sacked, he throws a really long pass, completes it just on the dime to a guy that wasn't open. He threw him open, and I was like, this guy is really good.
Yes, yes, he
And
is.
the Bears did a great job in the second half, just shutting down that team. And it should have been worse than it was because the I mean, I know the Bears turned it over, but the Texans were getting ready to score a touchdown before they fumbled it.
Right, right. Which, hey, you got to force those big turnovers, and they did. And kind of like in week one, like the pattern that we've seen, even going back to the end of last year, is the team really dials up the pressure on the opposing quarterback in the second half. And you saw them sack CJ Stroud a few times in the second half. I mean, they kept the Bears in this game. And sure, they did play a bit conservative. And yes, the Texans also committed a number of penalties. But all in all, when they got to midfield, you were kind of able to clamp down and give this credit to the defense too. Is you gave up 19 points. Okay. How many of those field goals were like 55 plus yards? Like that kicker is insane. Kickers today are insane, man.
It's
A
so
50-yard
wild.
field goal is nothing now.
I mean, even 2018, 50-yard field goals were, you're like, oh, that's a real tough field goal. And just the last 5-6 years, just nothing. A 55-yard field goal is nothing. I mean,
Fairbairn, whoever that guy is, made it look easy.
the Chiefs were getting ready to try a 66-yard field goal yesterday.
Well, how long was Harrison Butker's game winner? That wasn't a cheapie either.
I think that was 58, 56. Yeah, but it just like they were going to try like a 66-yard field goal.
And you see some of these 55-yard kicks. A lot of them are not just getting over the bar. You're like, you could have moved that back 5 yards. That still would have made it.
Yeah, it's unreal, these kickers now.
And think about it. Like, you watch where the Bears were able to get these stops. And you're like, man, you just got to hope that he misses it because they didn't get to the red zone. It's not like you're giving up a 28-yard field goal here. You just, man, it's insane how you can stop a team at midfield and you could still be confident in your kicker. I mean, obviously, you come to Chicago, the conditions can make things a bit more difficult depending on the wind. But if you're in any domed stadium or any like stable environment, like Texas, because technically the roof was open last night, but it's still that enclosed type stadium in a warm environment where it's like, all right, could kick it easy. Once upon a time, just the easy place to kick was Denver because of the altitude and the air up there. But I mean, if you're playing a game at Ford Field against the Lions, you got to be thinking, man, if you get like a 55-yard attempt, you can do that with your eyes closed with a lot of these kickers.
I think I heard a stat that so far this season, through the games played yesterday, that NFL kickers are like 85% of kicks over 50 yards. That's
And
incredible.
to not to make you feel old, but back in the 80s, what do you think that percentage was?
Over 50? Oh God, 35%.
Yeah. Boy, think about back in you know, when the Bears had their dynasties under George Halas. Oh, well, here comes Joey Spitshaw McGee getting ready to kick a very long 35-yard field goal. Oh, look at him. Oh, look at that leg. Oh, what a leg. What an amazing kicker.
They kicked it with straight away with the toe, and they'd have a flat toe on their shoe.
And remember, back then, the uprights were on the goal line.
Yeah, it wasn't all the way back.
Right. They were on the goal line. It's like a big H. So I know there were some hiccups with the defense early. Tyreek Stevenson didn't have his best game, and they were clearly going after him because not only was that a testament to, not Tyreek Stevenson's best game, but you know what else it's a testament to? Jalen Johnson's got that corner, that corner spot in where he is, whoever he's guarding, they're not going to them because they're locked up by him.
You know what I'm just going to say is the Texans now have they have three good wide receivers.
They do.
And sure, like we're like, oh man, they're doing work in the Bears in the first half. They did a lot of it was just some really good plays by that quarterback. But in the second half, the Bears did really well in stopping them. And overall, the Bears did a number on that team with their great cornerback play. And the Bears defense did plenty enough to win that football game. And the Bears had possession at the end of the game with the potential to go down and take the lead. And the offensive line reared its ugly head and was like, "Nah, dog. We want this to be a terrible flight home."
Blah, 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 all over that.
And I honestly, I hate losing. But I'm rather they lose that game, because if they would have come back and won that game in the last second, it would have been a little bit of sweeping the problems under the rug. Is having that long plane ride home afterwards, after that loss, having to go, man, we have to face the truths here, because you forget a lot of the things when you come back and win. You forget a lot of the things, and you shouldn't be forgetting things. You should be remembering all of the things. And it'd be nice if you could win and still remember all the things and go back and try to fix them, because there's just so much that needs to be worked on.
I mean, I wish they would have come back and won, no doubt, but I will say that if you're going to look at this from a positive perspective, you and I have done plenty of doomsday negative. We'll take a minute to say, hey, if you want to take a positive here, then really take a hard look at this and make yourself better. Eberflus, you want to prove you're the guy for the job? Prove it. Shane Waldron, same to you. Offensive line, same to you.
Hold people accountable.
Yes.
Don't hold Velus Jones accountable, because it's easy to hold Velus Jones accountable.
That's replaceable. That's just like,
it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter. It's not an accountability going, oh, it's an accountability when a big free agent acquisition in Nate Davis, or the guy that you anointed to be your center that you signed as a free agent, or the guy that's asking for a big contract extension, is you bench multiple of them. That is something with accountability, because those are guys that are definitely supposed to be starters for your team. They're guys that you're supposed to count on, and you couldn't count on them. Holding their feet to the fire sends a message. sends a message,
Yeah.
not just to them, but to everybody else. You know what? This this is not acceptable. This has to be better. You all have to be better. You cannot just ole people. You've got to sustain blocks. You've got to open holes. We've got to establish a running game. Is you've got to look at those running plays that just get absolutely blown up, throw them out the window, and find ones that work and run the ball down Indianapolis's throat.
Yeah, I mean, so you go to Indianapolis next week, and they looked awful at Lambeau Field. Like I said, Matt LaFleur coached circles around those guys. And, week one, they lost to the Texans too. It was a bit more of a competitive game, but the Texans ultimately came out on top. You have what it takes to beat them, even if you struggle to run. But I don't see this at all as a gimme game because I'm curious to see how the Colts respond as well. I mean, I think the Bears should be able to win this game, but it is far from a gimme. And you got to be more effective with blocking. You got to be more effective with the run. Those are all things that got to happen.
Can I tell you what my big fear is?
What's that?
Is that Richardson runs a lot and breaks the Bears' backs with his feet, his legs.
Yeah, well, they got to be prepared for that. You got to be prepared for it.
I wouldn't. I mean, not that he can't throw, but I would be much more comfortable with my cornerbacks doing press coverage and guarding guys one-on-one and having a spy in there and where he's an extra guy in the box. So he can help in actual, like, when Taylor's running the ball, and he's a spy for if Richardson tries to run, and to stop him and flush him out, and minimize those running plays and try to keep him in the pocket. I don't think they're going to do that because the Bears do what they do, and they just expect that their guys are just better than yours and they're going to play their game and win. I don't think they're going to. They historically, when do the Bears ever make these adjustments where they're like, oh, like, we decided we're going to take away your number one receiver with double team and force? They don't do that. They trust that their defense is good enough to win playing their own game. So I doubt we'll see that, but that should definitely be on the table because it's going to be a long day if he keeps picking up first downs with his legs.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see how this coaching staff responds. We'll see how the personnel responds. As Michael Irvin would say, what are you going to do about it?
It was so infuriating. I kept having to walk away from the game because I was just like, I can't watch this. It's making my stomach churn.
It made me mad that I'm sitting there with these just doom and gloom thoughts in week 2. I shouldn't be having that.
No.
Again, you saw a number of rough things for Caleb Williams, and I'm not even sitting there thinking about that. If you would have seen a cleaner game with a few struggles from Caleb Williams, yeah, game 2 of his career, sure. But when you see the offensive line as bad as it is, and you saw the play calling as bad as it was, and you saw more of the silly mistakes, the penalties after a timeout, why are we still doing that? It's the fact that it was a carbon copy of what we've watched every year. And you know what? It's much easier if you're a fan of a perennial contender to see you struggle the first 2 games of a week. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you didn't get off to that great of a start, you're probably not panicking. You've won 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, or whatever it is. But when you're the Bears and this is all you know, all you're seeing is just somebody taking in that same old dusty reel from the closet, blowing off the dust, putting it in the old projector, cranking it up, and hearing the and seeing the same movie again. That's why we're so sensitive to this.
So against the Colts, Joe Mixon ran for 159 yards last week. Against the Bears, he ran for 25 yards.
And to be fair, he did get hurt, but
so he ran for 2.8 yards per carry, and he ran for 5 point something yards per carry against the Colts.
It's a massive difference.
That's an absolute massive difference. And this week, you saw Josh Jacobs run for almost 5 yards a carry and run for 151 yards. And they couldn't stop Malik. Malik Willis didn't throw for a lot of yards, but 12, 14, and 126.8 quarterback rating. It's the Bears are going to have to run that football. Run the football, force them to try to stop the run, and then have one-on-one matchups with your big wide receivers. That's going to have to be the game. You're going to have to feed the ball to Cole Kmet. Let Cole Kmet just dominate in the middle of the field. But it starts with the run. You've got to be getting over 4 yards a carry. You just have to. I don't know what they have to do, but if put Roshan Johnson in there, if you want to have a big running back go in there and just hit heavy.
If you think Roshan Johnson's a guy, then let's figure it out. Let's see if he is a guy.
Just send him in there and hit that hole. No pussyfooting around. Just hit that hole and or one cut and go. And if you get hit by somebody, take them with you.
Yeah. And you know what? If you kind of run a similar scheme, which you ran with Khalil Herbert on that touchdown, try more of that too. If you want to hit DeAndre Swift more on short passes in the flat, try that as well. You got to take advantage of the weaknesses. You got to play the matchup and move the pocket more. Don't be a turnstile. Don't get moved backwards.
They just don't move the pocket. They don't do it. I don't know why. They did it in training camp. It's Caleb Williams comfortable doing it. They don't do it. Same thing we talked about the last couple of years. Hey, we see that Justin Fields throws better when he's on the move. Should we do it? No, just have him stand still and let our bad offensive line not do anything to help him.
Bleh. Yeah.
Like I want to be standing in the back of these meeting rooms when Shane Waldron's going through the offensive game plan and just be holding a tire iron and just casually tapping it into my open palm and just giving him a death stare. And every time he starts saying something dumb, just go.
Why not? Like I said, Matt Eberflus, you want to prove me wrong? Prove me wrong.
Yeah, I don't think they can win with Matt Eberflus. He's a terrible coach and a terrible head coach, and he's the worst head coach in the division.
I agree he's the worst head coach in the division. I think you can beat the middling teams because you got that defense and he can coordinate that defense good, and maybe you get a win or two against a good team, but that's the ceiling I see right now. I mean, obviously there's a bigger ceiling with the team as a whole. If you get a better offensive line and the potential of Caleb Williams and what he has around him and the defense he has. But like I said, you had the one signature win against the Lions, but over the next few weeks, your schedule is overall more favorable. And yeah, you can win those games. You can.
I want to go through, in this league, I think you either have to have a great head coach or a great quarterback or both to win. And I'm going through last year's standings. in the AFC East, it was a tied. Bills and the Dolphins. So in that division, the Dolphins have the best head coach and the Bills have the best quarterback. Okay, fits. AFC West, the Chiefs won. They have the best quarterback and the best head coach in the division. Okay, it checks out. The Ravens, they won that division. They have the best quarterback. I don't know, Joe Burrow, but there was injuries there. But Lamar is up there and is either number one or number two in quarterbacks by a mile. And the Ravens have either the best or the second best head coach. So, okay, that makes sense. They won. Texans had the best coach and the best quarterback in their division.
Man, that coaching on the Texans, man, that's the coaching I want.
Yeah. NFC. Let's see, the NFC South. The Buccaneers. The Bucs had the best quarterback in the division. They won, but it was a bad division. The Lions have,
Dan Campbell's pretty good at what he does.
Dan Campbell's a pretty good, and they just have a really good team. Maybe that's one of the anomalies, or maybe you go best quarterback head coach combo.
I mean,
I still not that high on Jordan Love. Just gonna say it.
Well, and I mean his sample size is small. There's no question that Jared Goff was the most productive quarterback of the four in the division last year. So I'm okay with saying best quarterback, best head coach last year for that.
NFC West. Stafford was hurt, so you got to call Brock Purdy the best quarterback in that division. And
Kyler Murray was also hurt too.
Yeah. And you had a journeyman as your quarterback in Seahawks. So yeah, the 49ers had the best quarterback and, one of the two best head coaches in that division. So, all right, that makes sense. They won. And then I don't know what the Cowboys just had a really good defense. They were the anomaly. I mean, maybe Dak is the best quarterback in that division.
I mean, Dak in the regular season puts up the numbers. If you say, hey, what are the numbers of a good quarterback, like a top 10 quarterback? Dak's going to give you that every single regular season. And he folds like a tent when it matters most.
And maybe Mike McCarthy is the best regular season head coach in that division too.
I think Mike McCarthy knows how to put together a hell of a system, but he is still one of the worst clock managers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But his systems though are very, very good. However, when you get to the big game, teams have found their ways to beat him. And yes, I know he won a Super Bowl back in 2010, but you look at some of those playoff games, whether it was with the Packers or whether it was with the Cowboys. I mean, last year, Green Bay, Matt LaFleur coached circles around Mike McCarthy in the playoffs last year. And then the year before, who beat the Cowboys again the year before? I don't remember.
But looking in the frame of this year, so every one of those teams, except, I mean, I'm not that big on the Bills head coach, but they have by far and away the best quarterback in that division.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think he's a terrible head coach. I just don't think he's an elite one. But do the Bears currently have the best quarterback in the division? No.
2 games in, you can't say that.
No. And with a bad offensive line, you can't say that. And he's clearly not the best head coach in the division. So how do the Bears fit that formula of combination of quarterback and and head coach. Like they just don't.
Well, we've been asking that question for 100 some years. So, well, I mean, hey, Billy Wade was solid in the early 60s when they won. And, you had the punky QB. And you had Rex Grossman. Just kidding. Just kidding.
He had
Just
Cuddy.
kidding. Oh, boy.
It just I you've gotta have a good head coach, and the Bears just don't. And maybe Flus is a really awesome guy, and he has good chemistry with Ryan Poles. But if you're Ryan Poles and you're really trying to win the division and never give it back, you can't do it with a guy that you like that's not a good head coach.
There are certain attributes that you need as a head coach. And I think Flus has some of them, but not enough of them. And like I said, I've given the benefit of the doubt in 2022 because you were tanking that year, and I'll give them this in 2022 for a team that was just completely bottoming out. You played some really tough games that year. It was the issues last year where I really got some not so great feelings with it. And, maybe in a few weeks, we see some things turn. Maybe we do. But I'm just not counting on it at the moment because it's not his second year, it's his third year. And I want to be able to say I can trust him because right now it's either you see it or you don't. This isn't like when you hire a proven commodity as a head coach. And listen, Matt LaFleur was a first-time head coach, but he proved himself right away, immediately.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Yes, it helps that you had Aaron Rodgers and, a better team, but
and there were learning curves. I mean, like he blew the playoff game.
yes, he
That was
did.
on him. But you know what? You could see the greatness that was there. And it pains me to say that. I don't want to say that. I would love for them to have a like Bozo the Clown as their head coach. It's like that would make me happy. But I got to be realistic. He's a really good head coach, and he's getting better and better every year.
Instead of paying attention to the field, he's on the sideline playing Bozo buckets.
Did I ever tell you the Bozo bucket story?
You may have, but enlighten me again.
So my best friend growing up, his brother was a year younger than us, and he was legally blind. Like he could see, but like his vision was so bad and uncorrectable that he was deemed legally blind. So like he could read a book, but he basically had to have his nose into the book to read it, like into the fold of the book. And he got on Bozo buckets, and he missed the first bucket. And Bozo's like, "Are you blind?" And he goes, "Yes."
Oh
And
no.
gave him all of the prizes.
Oh my gosh. Is there a clip of that somewhere?
I wish I mean, there's got to be one somewhere, but I've never seen it. I just was told that story, and the kid is now passed away. Rest in peace, Tom. But that is one of my favorite stories ever. Is are you blind? Yes.
Wow.
Bozo picked the blind kid. He probably cussed out his producers so bad after that.
Oh
You,
yeah,
you
seriously.
picked the damn blind kid?
Man. That I could not imagine, like, if I was Bozo, how awful I would feel. Damn.
Oh, Bozo buckets.
My
Sorry.
Bozo the Clown. What makes me think of Bozo the Clown is if anybody here has ever seen the episode of Seinfeld where George is at the birthday party and Eric the Clown is there and he's like, "Bozo, you're a clown. You should know, Bozo. Hey man, you're hung up from this clown from the 60s."
I loved Bozo growing up. Oh, Bozo the clown.
Hell, I remember as a little kid in like the early 2000s, early on Saturday mornings, I think PBS would show like old Bozo
WGN.
episodes or WGN, yes, WGN.
Yeah, I remember I got to go once because it was a big time when you got tickets to Bozo. And we went, and I remember like he's like, underneath your seats, you're all gonna be walking away with Archway cookies. And there was a package of cookies under the seat. Archway cookies.
I don't know why. Talking about Bozo just makes me laugh.
Oh, Wizzo. Wizzo the wizard and Cookie. Oh God.
Well, I remember a few years ago went going to the Illinois Broadcast Museum in downtown Chicago. And, obviously they have a lot of memorabilia over the years from Chicagoland television. And as you can imagine, Bozo's Circus was a big one. There was a big section all about Bozo's Circus. And, they have the Bozo buckets. And I think they might have had the costume. It was a while ago I saw it, but they had like one of the old cameras, the WGN camera with Bozo Circus that they filmed the show with. So it was kind of cool to see all that memorabilia. And it's the fact that now that Bozo the character has become so universally known that if you're just like a dumbass or a weirdo, like you're referred to as a bozo. It's just kind of funny.
You bozo. Ugh. Yeah. It is the Museum of Broadcast Communications is now being relocated.
Is it really?
Yes. The building got sold, so they're moving and they're temporarily closed until next year.
Huh, where are they moving to?
They're seeking a new location in collaboration with a local university. So they're now a virtual and pop-up exhibit around Chicagoland.
Until they find this permanent new home.
Yes.
Wonder if DePaul University is going to help them out.
I don't know.
DePaul or Columbia.
Who knows? But yeah, I loved that museum when I was a kid. I haven't been there in forever.
Yeah, I will definitely go back when they reopen. I just the virtual and pop-up might I just feel like the experience wouldn't be quite the same as just going to the permanent museum.
Right?
Because if I remember correctly, that was not far from Harry Carey's downtown.
No, it was like on the right in the same block.
Because, yeah, I remember now because we went to the museum and we went straight to Harry Carey's afterwards. So you got to see a bunch of television memorabilia, and then you go to Harry Carey's and you see all sorts of sports memorabilia and all the autographs from the celebrities that went in there and took the picture with the bus. And, those photographs that are hanging on the wall of all of them that are autographed and all the
So
baseballs that are there and the
it
bats.
so there's a Harry Carey's in Water Tower Place,
I've been there
and
too.
they've got a sports museum.
Yeah, the Chicago Sports Museum.
And my wife and I went there the other day, and I'd never been. I'd been like outside of it, but I never went in. And it was neat. It was small, but it was neat.
Do they still
Yeah,
have Chris Bryant's cleats there? Because
they do.
the last time I went there was shortly after the Cubs won the World Series, and that was kind of their new little attraction was that. And Sosa's corked bat, that was the other one that they had there.
I don't remember seeing that. But they had like um a game ball from Walter Payton and a game ball from Brandon Marshall, and they had like a replica of like an old Blackhawks goalie face mask, and like it was just cool.
Didn't they didn't they have a refrigerator Perry ring, like his Super Bowl ring, like the
It,
size of it?
it was like a replica of it, but yeah,
You could put your fist through it.
it was so big. Like you could drop like a silver dollar through it.
Yep. And then you had like the jump chart of Michael Jordan, like seeing how far
Hmm.
you can jump to be like MJ.
Then they had the wingspan of Scottie Pippen.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, you know, like mine. I have a slightly bigger wingspan than my height. Uh, and then they had the grip tester. Um, and then they had the one where you're trying to throw the football with Richard Dent trying to sack you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think is it the Chicago Harry Carries that has the Bartman ball, the shredded, destroyed Bartman ball, or is
Uh,
that at the museum now?
no, it's not at the museum. I can't remember if it is at the not the water tower location, but the one that's right by the broadcast museum, or if
Right.
it's at
Yeah. That
or
one. I
it
think
or
that's
it
where it's at.
or it might be at the Rosemont one.
I thought it was at the downtown
It
Chicago one.
might be. I can't remember because I
Because is
saw.
it wasn't that where they blew it up?
Yeah, but they have a like a hologram of it at the sports museum. Like you can push the handle and it like the hologram like explodes.
I will never forget when that happened. It was like February 2004, and I was watching the news and they showed it, and you just see it in this incinerator and they activate it. It's like, bzz, 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 and then all of a sudden it just turns into a pile of string.
It's wild that they spent that much money on that stupid baseball just to blow it up.
Dude, how were we that stupid back then? Like, I don't know if you remember this too, but the night before they blew it up, they had like a funeral for it.
We are a city of meatballs.
That was 20 years ago, by the way, when they did that. 2004.
Well, I remember when Harry Carey passed away, and I went down to the church where they had a wake for him, and there was a public wake, but his casket was closed, and they had a display case with his glasses in there. And I waited out there for like 2 hours to go see his glasses. And I told my wife, I was like, I remember I waited out there to pay my respects and see those stupid glasses. And I walk into the dumb sports museum, and there they are, right there, 2 seconds in. I could have just paid $10 and seen it.
Yeah, that's right. They those are there. I have a picture on my phone of them.
Yeah. So I was like, man, I was like, I can't believe I waited that long to see his stupid glasses, and I could have just waited a few years and paid $10 and seen him.
I remember reading somewhere. I don't know if this is true or not, but I read somewhere that they said that his funeral, Harry Carey's funeral in 98, was like the biggest attended funeral in the history of the city of Chicago.
Oh, I'm sure. Like the line to just go like view his casket was so long. Everybody came down there to pay their respects.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really big deal. I was only four. I don't remember when it actually happened, but there's a news clip or a few news clips on YouTube from when that happened. And they showed like Dan Roan reporting on it, and they had all these different news package segments from the day interviewing different people. And then they have the actual funeral on YouTube as well. And you saw like Wayne Mesmer sang at it, and you had all these big wigs from the Chicago sports community, like everybody from the baseball community if Chicago was in attendance. So big deal.
I know I've told this story on the air before, but Harry Carey used to be in the phone book. So one day I don't know what made me look up Harry Carey, but it's like holy shit! It was freshman year of college, and I'm like holy shit! No, sophomore year of college. I'm like holy shit! It's like Harry Carey's in the phone book. We called up and we talked to Harry, chatted us up for like a half an hour, and then was like, "Who is this?" We
Hey
called another.
there.
We called another time. We talked to Dutchy. Like he was just in the phone book. You could just call him.
Well, hello there, Sonny.
He
How
just
are you
chatting away.
doing in school?
Oh, like, I was like, who? Why, if you're Harry Carey, you in the phone book, answering your phone, chatting up everybody that calls you? Like, all right, that's cool. It's an experience, you know. How many people say they got to talk to Harry Carey on the phone? Like
Did you have
the only other experience I could like of somebody I know that had like a really cool experience is my friend was at a wedding somewhere out in the far suburbs, and Ronnie Woo Woo was there, and he drove Ronnie Woo Woo home.
did he just show up? Was he
I
a
don't
wedding crasher?
I don't know, but he's like, dude, Ronnie Woo was there. I was like, bro, I'll give you a ride home. He's like, I drove him like an hour home. I rode in the car for an hour with Ronnie Woo Woo. And I was like, dude, that's amazing. Did he woo the whole time?
That guy was doing it when my dad was a kid.
Ronnie Woo Woo.
Though I don't think he's wooed in like 20 years.
Is he still alive?
I believe so. I don't know how old he is, but the Cubs gave him like dental care and
Well, he was missing teeth. He needed it.
right, yeah, he didn't right. Boy.
It's one of those things that like, how does a guy like that just be able to go to all the Cubs games? Like what?
Yeah, I think after a while the Cubs just are like, all right, you're our
He
unofficial mascot.
he is still alive. He is 82 years old.
Yeah, I thought he was still alive.
Ronnie Woo Woo Wickers.
Man. Because he was at the World Series.
Longtime Cubs announcer Harry Carey dubbed Wickers leather lungs. Uh,
Did the Cubs give him a ring too?
I don't know.
Man. Cubs superfan says he was kicked out of Wrigley Field in May 2017. Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Lifelong Cubs fan Ronnie Woo Woo Wickers said he was kicked out of Wrigley Field on April 19th because he couldn't produce an e-ticket. Mary Mitchell, the Chicago Sun-Times, reported the incident Wednesday and called Wickers probably the most famous Cubs fan alive. They just lied about everything, the 75-year-old Wickers said, describing the incident. Wickers said his e-ticket was on his friend's phone, and his friends couldn't pull the app and was also kicked out of Wrigley as a result. Mitchell noted a Cubs spokesman said Wickers was approached because he attempted to enter the ballpark earlier without a ticket. Cubs Vice President of Communications and Community Affairs Julian Green said Wickers was then found in the bleachers and escorted out. Wickers is someone of a local celebrity, blah, 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 blah. He was even granted the opportunity to sing the seventh inning stretch at the ballpark in 2001. That didn't help in April when he couldn't produce an e-ticket.
How do you kick out Ronnie Woo Woo? Yeah, like, oh, it's Ronnie Woo Woo. All right, be there. Like it's Ronnie Woo Woo. But I see he does do paid appearances for events. I I want to have Ronnie Woo Woo at a party.
Well, then maybe your next birthday party, you can have Ronnie Woo Woo show up.
Um, that is a possibility.
You would, wouldn't you? Man, I'm just looking at pictures and yeah, I mean, he's been doing that forever. Jeez. But like I said, he hasn't wooed probably since I was even a little kid. I think
Ronnie,
his voice is gone.
and according to Wikipedia, Mancow got him his dental care.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot that it was him that did that.
Oh, Mancow.
Oh my God, I found a picture of Theo Epstein shaking hands with Ronnie Woo Woo the day he became the president of the Cubs.
Ronnie Woo Woo.
He was the first fan he met, fittingly.
That guy's got a hell of a life. I just go to Cubs games. Just became a celebrity.
Yeah, I'll say.
So while we're on the Cubs, eh, they are what they are. But did you hear the reports about there being strife in the Cubs front office?
I did.
I didn't read any of the articles. Were there specifics, or was it just very vague?
I didn't read too deep into it. Based on like what I've heard from other like experts, other insiders, like John Heyman was on the score. He didn't seem like it was anything overly crazy. But I do think that when you brought in Craig Counsell had his own idea of how he wanted to see things. And, obviously Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins have their own ideas. And I do think that the collaboration between the two parties is going to be interesting because there are times where I really think Craig Counsell wanted to do something and he just didn't have the guys that he wanted to do it with. And I do think that Jed Hoyer has got to be feeling some pressure because he's going into his last year of his deal and he hasn't made the postseason yet.
Yeah, I mean
So I
that's.
think there's some, there's some things going on.
I'm gonna say this. Do I think Jed will get fired this offseason?
I
No,
don't see it. No.
no. But if he did get fired, would I be shocked? Also, probably no. Like he's earned a firing, but I
I
don't think he will be fired.
I'd be a little surprised, not based on the job, but just based on how every direction seems like he's going to be back next year. Like there's absolutely no hinting whatsoever. But one thing we have learned about the Cubs, they're really good at keeping things quiet.
Fair.
They're really, really good at that. It's not like the White Sox who have, Bob Nightingale as Jerry Reinsdorf's stooge.
It's it's just frustrating because I mean you look and what are the moves that they would have to do? Like I know that there's been talks that they upgrade the catcher position. Okay. But you only have so much money to work with. Like, okay, then you're probably going to trade one of your two corner outfielders, right?
Maybe. I think that a lot of fans right now are looking at the infield because you got Matt Shaw on the rise.
Yeah. And I don't think you can trade your shortstop. I don't think that's a movable contract.
No, no, no,
But
no.
your second baseman, yeah, obviously that's a spot.
Yes.
Um, do you consider trading Bush while the while he's the trade value is high?
If you're bringing in Pete Alonso or what's his face, Vladdy Jr., yes, but you better be bringing in one of those two
Oh,
because
absolutely.
first base is a
Absolutely.
premier position. Bush has had a really nice full first season.
Oh,
He's hit
absolutely.
20 homers. His fielding has really improved. But if you're going to replace that, better be with somebody elite.
Um, so I mean, it's Hap or Suzuki in the outfield, assuming Bellinger opts in.
That right there is a big thing. What's going to happen with Bellinger? Because he's overall had a nice season, but not quite last year.
I mean, you have to ask yourself, is is he going to make more than the 27 million that he's going to make next year? Is he going to uh is he going to do better than that opting out? I don't know.
I don't know
I,
either,
I mean, if
but
he does, it won't be per year, it'll be total contract.
right. Now, Scott Boras is his agent.
Right.
So, but Scott Boras is also not stupid.
Right.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So um, he's got uh, he's got 2 years, $53.3 million left on that deal, roughly. So, it would have to be 3 year 75, 4 year 100. And I'm like if Boris thought he could get that, then I'm sure he would opt out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Um, do we know the date that he has uh to opt out by?
That I would have to look. I I count all that stuff when the off season actually gets here.
Yeah. But it's uh, 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 Will Leitch of MLB.com wrote that it appears unlikely that Bellinger will opt out of the deal.
Which wouldn't be overly surprising.
No, because he can
But
opt out next year.
right. But you know what? I mean, like I said, it might not be last year, but he's had an overall nice season. He's also dealt with a broken finger and cracked ribs.
Right. So, I mean, PCA is looking like he could be really good.
Boy, he's really looking good lately.
And this is not a knock on Bellinger, is PCA is far and away the better center fielder.
Yes, of course. I mean, there's how many guys have that speed?
Very, very few. How many of those that have that speed they also play center field? Like, so it is. I mean, we saw the stolen home runs, and we see how fast he goes around the bases. It's a weapon, and the bat is starting. He's starting to figure it out. He's looking like a real weapon. So he's going to be your center fielder next year. So that means is Bellinger your DH, or is he going to be platooning and going into either corner outfield spot, sometimes first base, sometimes DH? Is that the plan with him? Where if you've got to generate more power, where are you going to get that?
Yeah, that's a big question. That's a big question.
Pete Alonso seems like an obvious choice because you're clearly not going to spend money on
Juan Soto.
Juan Soto because I don't know why you wouldn't. That guy's going to make your middle of your order that much better.
Oh, I would 100% do it, but no reason to count on it.
Yeah, but Pete Alonso seems like a realistic option. What's Pete Alonso batting?
The home runs, the OBP, the OPS is what I care about with him. I know he hasn't had the best year of his career, but
so on base 328, OPS 793, 32 home runs.
Yeah, 32 home runs. You figure by the end of the year, you'll probably be at 35. So 35, 40 home runs. You haven't had a 30 home run hitter since like what, 2019?
I mean, and you figure at Wrigley Field, he's going to hit more home runs than that.
Well, have you seen Wrigley this year? Hasn't been a very friendly hitter environment.
Because we didn't have good weather. Like we had a lot of cool, windy days.
We did, yes.
That's you typically you get that wind howling, or it just when it's hot, just the dead air. But But last year, Pete Alonso, 46 home runs, 821 slugging. The year before, 40 home runs, 869 OPS. Sorry, 821 OPS last year, 869 the year before. So he's like an 800 plus OPS, roughly 35, 45 home run guy. But Juan Soto would be so good.
Yeah.
Vlad Guerrero this year has 28 home runs and a 938 OPS.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty darn good. His slash line is 319, 395, 543 with a 938 OPS.
That'll play.
And a 5.6 B WAR.
That will play. You don't have a guy of that level on the Cubs right now. I've said this many times, I'll say it again. You have a lot of good in the vacuum. But when you look at the overall mix and what you lack, that's why this team is 500, not a playoff team. That and your bullpen is just, it's like the Bears' offensive line.
Yeah. I mean,
it stabilized for a little bit mid-season and then injuries came and, you know.
If you think about it, it's if you would have added like a quality power bat into your lineup or solidified your bullpen, either one of those, and you're probably a playoff team this year.
Hell, you just had a reliable closer. You didn't blow so many saves early.
Yeah.
Yep. Really disheartening.
And
do I think they would have been a World Series team? No, but when you get to the big dance, you get to the big dance.
Anything's possible. Look at the Mets. The Mets have been a really on fire team, and you're like, okay, you know what? I don't discount them. You know, if they get in and overtake the Braves, then you know, could they beat the Phillies? Absolutely, especially when it's a division opponent. And the Brewers have some nice players. I'm not a believer. I don't think they can win the World Series. I could be wrong. I don't think so. I don't know. It's so easy to say it's going to be the Orioles or the Yankees, but I just feel there's going to be a hot team that just comes in out of nowhere that you're like, how the hell did this team? It could be the Mets.
Could be the Mets. Could be the Mets. We'll see. Could be the Padres too. You see the way they're playing?
It's amazing. You get rid of Juan Soto and your team gets better.
Huh, I know.
But then he goes to the Yankees and makes them better. So it's weird math.
It really is.
The only question left with the White Sox is, are they going to break that record?
Well, I mean,
they're winning games.
They won 2 in a row for the first time since June.
And they're playing the Angels, who are not good. What do they have to, what's their record got to be to, I think they got to play 500 baseball to not break the record.
Pretty much.
Let's see, MLB standings. They are they've got 12 left. And yeah, they've got to go 6-6. And what is their schedule? White Sox schedule. So they got they've got 3 against the Angels, 3 in LA against the Angels, 3 in Chicago against the Angels, 3 at San Diego, 3 at Detroit. 6 against the Angels. that makes it a possibility because the Angels are not very good.
No, they're not.
The Angels are 60 and 89, and they're on a 5-game losing streak. It's 2 and 8 in their last 10.
The true toilet bowl.
It is a bad matchup today, but I mean, you play the game to. And what's the pitching matchup here? Oh, a guy with a almost 6 ERA pitching for the Angels.
At the end of the day, doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. I mean, I'm rooting for the White Sox to break that record because it looks terrible for Jerry.
Yeah,
It's not gonna change anything, but we can just laugh at Jerry.
gave a nice hollow statement the other day.
He's the worst.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
We're disappointed, but we're very proud of everybody coming to the ballpark every day and giving their all.
Sound like Dracula. He's
American. He is Dracula.
He's American Dracula.
I mean, come on. He probably does sleep in a coffin.
They got to fill it up with dirt from the infield. They fill it up with the stale buns, the hot dogs they didn't sell. It's like, you can't throw it away. That's a waste of money.
And then sitting in the sleeping in the coffin next to him is also Tony La Russa. You're right next to each other.
And he's really dead. He's just like an animated corpse.
I mean, Tony La Russa is still there, isn't he? He's still involved?
Yeah. He's like a Bill Murray in Zombieland. Tony La Russa's like,
not nearly as funny as Bill Murray, unfortunately.
Definitely not as much fun. Bill Murray.
Quite the opposite of fun. Now I have just this hilarious vision of Jerry Reinsdorf in his vampire coffin coming out with his vampire cape.
Oh,
One loss, two loss, He's also the Count.
Oh my God. And Michael Reinsdorf is like Scott Evil.
So that's why we don't see them during night games when the moon is full.
Oh my God. Does that make Chris Getz Igor?
Yes, master. All right, I need you to go out and say, we expected to lose 100, but not 120. Yes, master.
Make it sound believable.
Yes, master. He's really bald like Igor. He just wears a wig. He's got the big gloves. I mean, between Chris Getz's statement and Jerry Reinsdorf's statement, it was like the biggest collective eye roll you could think of.
Oh God. Everything involved with that man is just a total joke.
Like, how are you not just deeply embarrassed? He says he's going to speak more after the season. So,
that should be good. I'm sure he'll sell something that resonates with the fans and nothing that makes them angry.
I still believe in Chris Getz and what we're doing here. It's not going to happen overnight. Even though you said you hired Chris Getz to get better as quick as possible. You said that. Your words, Jerry. Said that last year.
And what's wild is they're going to be a 100-loss team next year too.
Well, didn't Chris Getz also say we're not going to really do anything in free agency? We're not going to go hard in free agency.
Yeah.
Listen, and if you're rebuilding and you're not going to go after big free agents, nobody's really expecting that, in the deep logical areas of their mind. But to say that on television, and then you'll have the nerve of saying, hey, all right, ticket reps, go sell those tickets, make your numbers, go sell this team. The last job in the world I want right now is to be a ticket rep for the White Sox. I pray for them. Do you know how many people would tell you to just F off and it's not your fault?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, that might be the worst job in the world. I would rather shovel elephant shit than have to be a White Sox ticket rep. And when I say shovel it, I mean with my hands. Like, I would rather do that.
Yeah, me too.
What a joke. I don't want White Sox fans to think that I'm shitting on them. They did nothing to deserve any of this. That's your organization is a total shit show. And
I've seen so many former Sox season ticket holders saying, I'm not even touching that with a 10-foot pole. Or not even a 49.5-foot pole. You're a cheap one, Mr. Reinsdorf.
An evil, nasty soul.
Stink. Stank. Stunk.
Is that describing him or the team?
It's describing Jerry.
Yes.
Yeah, if Pedro Grifol was still here, you could have said Jerry Chris Grifol.
the trifecta.
Stink. Stank. Stunk. Because there was a time we said that about the Bears with George McCaskey, Ted Phillips, and Mark Trestman.
Yep. Oh, God. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, I've said my piece.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That will grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.